Welcome back to the Thriving Lawyers Podcast. In this week's episode, join Chris Osborne for part 2 of a lively and inspiring interview with Winter Wheeler, a winning litigator from Atlanta who picked a paralyzing pandemic period to pivot her practice to all mediation and strike out on her own.
Well, and there's ways to express a concern without making you feel like crap for even having an ambition and trying. You don't have to squish you to say, we're a little worried about your caseload or your hours or something. Can we talk about this so we have a realistic conversation? There's ways to do that and at least leave you feeling some dignity and support for having an ambition, I can only imagine. Yeah, tell me I can't. Right then. Wow. Yeah. And what was he referring to? Like what had he noticed or experienced that was glaring that there was this disconnect? Okay. Yeah. 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 Right. Well, and you've also got what I've done. One of my trainings that I've done several times is adopting a mediation mindset. And I put on this program because as I was starting to do some mediations, I recognized that not a lot of lawyers come into mediation with the mediation mindset, i.e., expecting it to be productive or meaningful or anything. They're like, I got to be here, check this box. They've told the client, they make us do this, it's worthless. The other side's a loser. We don't want to pay all this stuff. And it doesn't matter which side of the aisle you're on, you get some of those folks. And I remember in my mediation training, when I first taught that training, I remember realizing that I had train wrecked, or at least complicated every mediation I had done as an advocate because I didn't have that mindset. Because I was so, I'm going to show them how strong I am and we're going to pound them and all this. And I was, pissed off for, 30 minutes from which they had to come down to be able to have the kind of conversation we're going to have that day. And when that light bulb went off for me, I was like, oh, and then it took about 4 or 5, well, actually for me, it took leaving law practice altogether to teach law school and then kind of coming back to it and going, okay, what do I want to be when I grow up as a lawyer now? um, and going, my personality actually is so much more like yours, wired towards how can I help us hear each other? And how can we navigate things that are hard? And I used to be that guy. I used to be like, sure, I'll argue with you. Sure, I'll respond to your 20 defenses with my 20 paragraphs and all that stuff. And I've realized, yeah, but I've realized as I've embraced mediation and then civil collaborative and collaborative family practice, this is the place I love to be. I've got this visceral antagonism towards litigation now. I'm like, come on. And it's a mindset thing. It's like, this is so not productive. I know you have to do it sometimes, and I'm not, all you thriving lawyer listeners who are litigators out there. I love y'all. I'm glad y'all are doing what you do. I just had to acknowledge finally, I don't fit there anymore. And it's not because I can't do it. I can still do it fine. Doesn't grab me. I don't. I think I've got better skills, like you're saying. I'm better deployed in this space as a neutral. Yeah. Right. And you still had you taken certification training or anything at that point? Still, no. This is still Wow. Okay. Okay. And how much time passed between the John Miles conversation and the community partner conversation? Was that like real together, or did any time between those? Okay. So it's still all fresh. It's not like you have this waiting caseload. You're like, I got to get out of here. I now know what I want, and I've done my time enough in the trenches. Okay. It's all right. Yeah. Which is huge. But that's huge to have somebody see that and see how it resonates with you and see that, yeah, you've got the skills for this. You just need to meet the right people, the right opportunities, and they're in a position to help you that. Yeah. What a gift. Yeah. Has said, I think you might have it. You can do this. Yeah. Thank goodness you had that voice. Thank goodness you had that belief. I mean, another takeaway for our listeners is the power of somebody just believing in you. Sometimes it's as formal as a mentorship or a sponsorship kind of role. It can't be underestimated. Real quick story. I worked in a small insurance defense firm. I got an opportunity to clerk for a federal judge, a federal magistrate judge at an odd time. It worked perfectly for me. It was great timing. And then I did that for a couple of years and realized, okay, I want to get back to practice. And I went to a very small law firm and it was not a fit. And I did not realize it. I was sort of frog in a boiling pot of water. There were some disconnects there that I couldn't put my name on. It's not like anybody screamed at me and beat me when I came in the door. It wasn't anything bad like that, but it was just not supportive and it was kind of deflating in a way I didn't even know. And so they eventually let me go. And my response at first was like, "Excuse me, have you seen my pedigree? Do you know where I went to law school and what I'm doing? And you're letting me go? What I was not happy. And I was also like, this is bizarro world. This is not something I was prepared for. I felt shame, all this stuff. I ended up landing at a different law firm, one that I had actually interviewed for at the same time as I had interviewed this small firm, but I thought the smaller firm would be a little bit better, path to partnership. But I really liked the people in the medium-sized law firm. Well, they gave me a job, and anyway, I went to work for a mentor, a great lawyer named Ron McNeil. But his it was like I went to work for the exact doppelganger of who I had been working for, somebody who was critical and negative and looking for the flaw and the mistake most of the time. It's a good legal skill, but it's not a great management skill. I went to work for this guy who would say, I'd come, he'd say, I was thinking about you this weekend when I was mowing my lawn, and I'm so glad you're here. And I'm like, really? I can do this? I'm 28. I'm like, I can. Maybe I'm 30. I'm 30 by that point. I'm like, I can do this because I was starting to think I couldn't because everything was just critical. And but so the value of somebody, and yeah, you can do this. You need some shaping. I'll shape you, or I'll give you what you need. It cannot be underestimated. It makes the entire difference. Yeah, it gave you something. You gave you ability to believe, so that when somebody else comes along with some negative, uh, you knew already. Okay, but then you had the confirmation. Got it. Yes, that's it. That's it. Yes. Yeah. Okay. I see. So take us then through, because you said at one point it was also a difficult decision. It was, and this is November of 19, and then you're about to emerge on the scene as a mediator, and the daggum pandemic hits and the world shuts down. How did that feel? If you don't mind sharing. Yes. Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, no. Oh my gosh, because there's no live events at all. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, what a double whammy. Sure. But what's the name of the band, real quick? You got to put a plug in for the band. Who are they, and where can we find their music? Oh, I love it. Yeah, I love it. Named after the Eddie, was it Eddie Grant song? We're gonna rock down to Electric Avenue, and then we'll take it higher. Sorry, I should not be singing. I don't know about that. Oh, oh wow. So, but he shut down essentially, and you all are now like, whoa, okay, sure, okay. Right, like you're gonna miss a mortgage payment or meal or anything like that. You're comfortable, but you had to have made, I would imagine, decisions along the way that helped you save for a rainy day, or make you have some cushion or something. Because a lot of us, if we're living too close to margin, two things like that happen, and it's like, oh, so that's a good plug for thoughtful planning. You know, yes, yeah, right, right. I get it. It's okay to own that it was And it's okay to own that it was destabilizing. It was like, the ground's kind of out from under you. Like, wait a minute, what does the future look like? And you got little mouths to feed. It's not just you and him. It's like, yeah, yes, yeah, sure. Oh yeah. Well, you're navigating through a global crisis. It's not just like, oh, there's been some challenges in the world. It's literally everything that they know and are familiar with has been kind of yanked away or twisted or changed. No matter whether you have resources or not, still for them, for a child's mindset, it's like, people are talking about death, people are talking about disease, people are talking about we can't go outside at all. I mean, that is scary stuff. So I love how you all are engaging. You're trying to guide them through this and even figure out what's appropriate at what stage to tell them. I mean, it's my wife is a adolescent and child counselor, so she works in that and is out into that. There's so many people that are trying to help their kids, recover from this and adjust to a new normal, a new way of life. So I hear you. Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, Right. Right. Right, and talk about a little bit about the book that you were involved with, the networked book, and the powerful. It was ladies from lots of different professions, right? It wasn't just lawyers, but who came together. It's all people in the law. Okay, okay, okay. Yeah, unbelievable. Okay. Right, and y'all got it written fairly fast. I mean, it was published and out there, and kind of then you're all out there networking and promoting together, which is also you're what I love is you're demonstrating the principles as you do it. It's like do as we do, not just as we wrote about theoretically. So, what was your focus from your chapter? What was your kind of main takeaway that you tried to leave people with about your piece of the journey? Okay, yeah, sure, yeah. Basically you had this community of, it sounds like, tell me if I'm getting it right, but like trust and commitment to sort of, we got each other whatever comes out there, and you're from all different law firms, right? This is solo practitioners, people from across the country even. You're connected because you have this purpose, and what I love is this commitment to to lift each other up, to give feedback, which means sometimes there were some honest conversations, like you don't just say, yeah, it looks great, oh my gosh, it's terrible. You want real feedback. It's like, hey, I wouldn't do that. Yes. Uh, yeah. Right. 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 It'll sting. Yeah. 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 And pay your dues and learn the craft. There's another aspect of learning the craft that you can only do because it's a little different. Even though if you've been through mediations as an advocate and done a great job, when you are the person in the neutral chair, and then you get this curveball in one room. One of my most recent mediations, I sized it up fairly quickly. Pro se person, HOA versus pro se person. HOA's got counsel. Say person is emailing and calling me ahead of time and asking weird questions. I'm like, oh boy, I can see how this is going to go. I get in there, and the pro se person brings her dad, who is this kind of helpful, calming force to her because she's about to go off the rails multiple times. And he's like, now calm down. He had this lovely British accent that helped too. Like, calm down, so and so, what her name was. Meanwhile, I got her to agree to like, I won't do what they don't want me to do, and kind of to cave. And the guy in the other room for the HOA ends up being the difficult one. He's like, well, I want my attorney's fees. I'm like, sir, she's not going to do anything else. She stopped, just let it go. He's like, no. And he nearly blew the thing up. And I'm going, well, I did not expect that curveball. And his lawyer's going, you know, it's his call because it is. And he's trying to tell him. And I'm saying, have you thought about this and this? And the lawyer's like, yeah, I've told him, And so I'm singing from the same sheet of music. So winning the lawyers, and he nearly torpedoed it. And I was going in the other room to say, we're done. It's an impasse because he wants money. Something finally clicked. Something finally, I don't know what it was. I can't even point to anything I said or did, other than I built the whole time and said, anyway, you get curveballs like that. You think you only learn by fielding them, doing them, and dropping the ball sometimes. Yeah, yeah. You guys just put, yeah, put it out there. Right. Yeah. Right. That's right. Right. Well, we have a phrase we use sometimes in our workshops. It's, we're often, comparing and judging other people, but it's not usually a fair comparison. And a mantra that I think Michael introduced me to says, don't compare 90% or the 100% really. Maybe let's say you don't know everything about yourself, but 90% of yourself, against the 5%, if that you know of somebody else's life, especially if it's curated and put out there. Look how great I am, blah blah blah. It's like I don't trust that anyway. But would you say, is there any place that you would attribute for giving you that sort of commitment, that self knowledge and ability to be resilient? What would you attribute that to? If you okay, huge. Yeah. Except come home without a graduate degree. But even that was a statement that we believe in you. So get on a path doing something, because we know you can. Don't yeah, exactly. Didn't feel good at the time. Yes. Well, yeah, I don't ever say it very loud, because I don't want I don't want to, exactly, because I'm like something will come then. But right, right, a process that would have to build over time. Yeah, and some of that, and a lot of that's because of that hustle, that networking, with those women. But it's you're not just networking with them. You all are driving each other, supporting each other, encouraging each other as you network out. beyond. And then, it's just kind of, you want to get that sort of funnel of kind of lots of people are hearing your name and coming and saying, hey, I hear you're doing this. And you're good. Wow. Not nowhere. Right. Yeah. Sure. Now, are there things? Yeah. Right. Well, and you've been very generous with your time. We got started late. We've gone a little bit late. I would ask, is there anything you could say, share that you do in terms of self care, in terms of keeping that mindset, keeping the sort of doubts and things or the haters, whatever it is at bay. And also just, you're a mom, you're an engaged mom. I've seen your kid on when we were on a phone call earlier, and you've been schooling them at home as a lot of us have been. What do you do to sort of keep sanity and keep focus in the midst of all of that? Everybody don't listen now. Sorry. I'm just kidding. Okay. Oh, okay. 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 Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right. Gosh. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Right. Those are some things. Those count. Yeah. Well, sure. Oh, I get that. Yeah. 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 I know. Right. Right. Well, that's right. But what I hear in there though is honestly, you give yourself a hard time, but when you say you actually make that time, that is some self care. Even if you might be, reading or listening to something that's going to make you a better mediator or a better parent or whatever. Um, we have to multitask sometimes. In that sense, we have to do two things at once. Like I discovered I like cooking. Cooking is a relaxing thing, partly because I can make a meal and get closure on something, which is nice as a lawyer. I get closure and people are happy at the end of it, which is not always the case in mediation or a collaborative case. They're kind of like, okay, I'm relieved, but I really don't want to see you again. Um, but I realized I can listen to a podcast while I'm doing that. And if I need to learn something about how to run my practice, I can listen to that. I can, those are things I can do at the same time. I'm a recovering awful multitasker and trying to quit quit even entertain the illusion that I can multitask well. And it's funny because I catch myself now. I'm like, no, this is not working. I got to be dialed into one thing, but it still happens. So yeah, I really liked what I would underscore for our listeners is that commitment to, what you're wanting to do and to trying to help make it happen. And yes, you are making sacrifices. And that is one, my partner Mike would say, and I would probably have to agree, but I'm in this category too. Sleep is one thing that suffers, that I don't get as much. I actually got a Fitbit to start tracking, sleep. I needed objective data because I could lie to myself about, I got 7 hours last night. Like, no, you didn't. Like, okay, I didn't. And I can't keep doing this or else I know what'll happen. You're making time for some things. And even the choice, I would say, to align what you're doing with what you're passionate about and you're seeing results at and you're getting affirmation in, that is a rewarding aspect. There's something about that is its own. I mean, I will say this, you have inspired and encouraged me. This was kind of a lift that I needed because I've been sort of declaring more lately, I'm a mediator, I'm not a litigator. And there are times, sometimes I'm self-conscious about what my litigator friends that I know, I ran into one Friday night at dinner, guys still do construction litigation. I used to do construction litigation. I'm like, I'm not in that world doing that anymore. And am I bad? Am I less? I'm like, no, I've figured out who I am and how to deploy my skills as best possible. And some of that's education and some of that's mediation. And in collaborative, when those come together, I've had that conference you came and spoke at was things coming together for me. Like I'm getting to teach and educate about being collaborative and mediation. I'm like, this is the holy grail. And I worked my tail off to do that though. I'd stayed up some late nights for my part in it. I was joyful doing it because this is like my thing, my skill set. And I love what people are taking away from it. They can do something different and think differently, like thinking like a lawyer that we all get kind of, socialized or whatever shoved into in law school is a lot more, it can be a more expansive thing. Just I can analyze and categorize and, have an argument for your every counter argument. I like the tools that I use as a mediator and collaborative lawyer to think about, hey, I know this is what you want, this is what they want, and those aren't going to match up unless somebody does something different. How can we think about this differently? The creativity, those aspects of it. So you've been an inspiration to me. I believe that this podcast, or however many episodes we could have, will be an inspiration to our listeners. So I can't thank you enough for being with us. I could talk to you for hours probably about this. But thank you so much for your time. And really, part of what we like at the Thriving Lawyers podcast is we're not presenting people who are just one cookie cutter journey, one way of navigating the practice of law, because there isn't one. And we love hearing the different individual stories about how people make it work. And you've had some great blessings and challenges. That's what we all experience over time. Sometimes it feels skewed to one or the other, maybe. But over time, that stuff's going to keep coming and going. But knowing kind of who you are, and the other thing I hope our people hear is having people that have your back. Whether it's a mentor or sponsor like Miles, what you've talked about, that's inspiring. And the networking. And the book is #network, right? Okay, so go get it. It's available at Amazon, right? And it's fantastic. I've heard several of the women from it speak, and they are machines on LinkedIn as well. And so we're honored that you've been with us. I hope I'll see you again soon. I've got actually several things I want to talk to you about and ask you about. They're totally building off of this. I got some good ideas, but we'll end the podcast here. And thanks again, Winter Wheeler, for being with us. You can find her at the Miles Mediation and Arbitration website if you need them. And thanks very much, and we'll see you next time on our podcast. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Thriving Lawyers podcast. We love hearing from our loyal listeners, so please feel free to email us any questions, comments, suggested topics, or guest recommendations at the following address:
feedback@thrivinglawyerspodcast.com. The Thriving Lawyers Podcast is brought to you by Real-Time Creative Learning Experiences, a national provider of continuing legal education and professional development programs that leave participants engaged, encouraged, and equipped to pursue meaningful and sustainable change in their practices, their lives, and the organizations they work in. And by Osborne Conflict Resolution, your experienced guides through the uncharted terrain of business and family law disputes, based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on the Thriving Lawyers Podcast.